My name is Tom Jew, and my wife's name is Linda. I'm only 5 feet 10 inches tall and weigh 165 pounds, but I have my strengths. We met in college when I was 23, and she was 21. I served in the military while taking classes to get a double degree in economics and accounting. She majored in biology. My military service didn't require constant presence in conflict zones, but it was dangerous. Our unit had individual assignments, often involving correcting someone, pretending to be a friend. In short, we were killers. My specialty was close combat planning. I graduated at 25, and 2 years later, I left the Army to marry Linda. In 4 years, we had 2 girls. I worked from home, handling accounting for some local businesses, and also did some sales from home. Linda was busy with the kids, but when our marriage had been going for 10 years, she got a job at a local lab associated with the university. Both girls were in school, and I was working from home, so she could return to a job she enjoyed. We lived in the house where I grew up. I bought it when my parents moved to Florida. I acquired it from them when I was in college. Some of our military assignments gave the unit the opportunity to get a nice reward, which we divided into 10 parts. So, I had the money to buy what we needed. One day, at the end of February, we decided to go out with our friends and neighbors for dinner and dancing at a club. There were 8 of us, and everyone had babysitters for the kids. Linda and I booked a room at a hotel associated with the dance club. She looked stunning at 5 feet 10 inches, slim and brunette. She wore a blue silk dress. We had a great dinner and had a lot of fun dancing at the club. When a group of 6 people arrived, one of them was a big, blonde guy, Mark Stevens, a professional midfielder for the local team. All the women at our table immediately noticed him. Stevens was with a lovely blonde who wore what seemed to be a big wedding ring on her finger. They danced together. Our friend June said she was a cheerleader for the team and was engaged to Stevens. After being there a while, I noticed Stevens staring at our table. He got up and came over to us. He immediately went to Linda and simply asked her to dance, without even looking at me. I put my hand on his shoulder to stop him, but she got up from the table and went with him. She didn't even look at me. I was more than a little upset. I was even more upset when, after 2 fast dances, it was time for a slow one, and Linda melted into Mark's arms. I got up and walked to the bar, just passing by them and the women at our table. They didn't like it and made that clear, but I went anyway. Linda didn't care much, not even noticing me walk by. I had a coffee. When the slow dance ended, they parted, and Linda returned to her table. I stayed at the bar and drank my coffee. I saw her looking for me, and she saw me there. She looked a little worried. She sat next to June. I walked over, and as I got closer, they both stood up. "Did you have fun?" I asked. "I'm sorry. Maybe I got carried away a little," said Linda. "Maybe, yes," June intervened. "Tom, it was just a little dance, nothing special." "I thought that was insulting to me," I said. "I'm sitting down. June and I are going to the ladies' room. We'll be back in a minute." Linda said they left, and Mark left through the main door without the blonde. But Linda wasn't with her. I asked, "Where is she?" "Tom, Linda's not here. She went with Mark." "Are you kidding?" I ran out and saw Linda getting into the red SUV. The car started moving. I went back to the table. June was talking to the others at the table. Everyone knew what was happening. June said, "Tom, you should let her spend the night. She'll be back with you tomorrow." "No, I don't need her to come back. Let her know that when you talk to her. We're done." When I said this, there was a general uproar at the table. Everyone thought I was too harsh, so I shouted, "I don't want anything to do with any of you ever again." They all knew, and no one warned me, so maybe I could have stopped it. Now she'll lose everything for one night of sex. I went to the reception but saw a blonde woman at a table with the other 4 who had come with Stevens. She was crying. I approached. "Are you his girlfriend?" "Yes, I was his girlfriend, but not anymore." "Where did they go?" "To our house on Cherry Lane. He said he would never do this once we were engaged." "Excuse me, was that your wife?" "It was." "Was is the key word here," I said. "I'll end it with her in the morning and take her home. She likes to brag about her husband. What an idiot." At that, 2 more guys, both big, one black and one white, got offended. I ignored them. I gave my business card to May and asked her to call me. She smiled, but cried. I walked away, grabbed my coat, but left Linda's coat behind. I went to the hotel room and grabbed my suitcase, but left Linda's suitcase. I checked out. While driving home, a plan was completely formed in my head. This had happened to me before when I was in the military. That's why I'm still alive. I wish I had come up with a plan before Linda left. I drove my car into the garage. I entered and turned on the security system. I went down to the basement and took out the rope I had kept for many years. Then I went upstairs, took off my clothes, and ran up to the second floor. I grabbed black underwear, a black sweatshirt, dark gray sweatpants, sneakers, and 2 pairs of gloves. I also grabbed a balaclava. I put it all on and went up to the attic with a rope, secured it with wool, a pocket knife, and an old axe I had stored in my toolbox. I put everything in my backpack, then took my bike and pedaled to the river through a small forest. I crossed the bridge over the river and headed toward Cherry Lane. I saw a house with a football player statue and a red SUV parked in front of it. I took an axe and a knife, jumped over the fence, and ran along the SUV. I used the axe to break the passenger side window. The alarm went off. Then I jumped onto the porch and hid behind a column near the door. I didn't have to wait long. The light came on and the door opened. The idiot stuck his head out and used the remote to disable the alarm. He went outside. He had a semi-automatic pistol. I hit him in the head with the axe. When he passed by me, he fell and crawled. I delivered a strong blow with the axe using both hands, then went back and closed the front door. I turned around and ran away, jumping over the stone wall and back to my bike. I put on wool socks, put the axe, the knife, the gloves, and the shoes into the backpack and zipped it up. I jumped on the saddle and sped toward the river. When I reached the bridge, I stopped and threw the backpack as far as I could into the river, which was pretty far. It had rained the previous day, and the current was fast. I rode my bike back to the house, through the nearby forest to the workshop. I entered, took off my socks, and put on another pair of sneakers. I sprayed the bike's tires and pedals with an ammonia solution and cleaned them. Then I ran back, jumped over the side fence, and climbed back up the side of the house. It wasn't as easy as I thought, but I managed it and climbed through the small window. I pulled the rope and coiled it. I wiped the windowsill with a cloth and ran with the rope to the basement. I took off all my clothes, including the mask and gloves, and put them in the washing machine. Then I showered in the basement bathroom for a while, washing everything twice. After that, I put on gym shorts and went upstairs. I left the basement door open so I could hear when the washing machine stopped. I thought, and then put on the clothes I wore at the club the night before. I went down to the basement and put the wet clothes in the dryer. I went upstairs, made some snacks, and had a glass of whiskey. Then I sat for a while, thinking things over again. When the dryer stopped, I took the clothes upstairs and put them back in place. The key was at the back of the closet, where I always kept it. I looked at my watch. It was 2:50. All this time, from the moment I entered the house, the return from the club began at midnight. I went down, sat on the couch, and had more whiskey. I fell asleep. The doorbell woke me up at 6, too. I looked at the camera screen and saw 2 people, an African-American woman and a short-haired white guy, police officers. The doorbell rang again, and I opened the door. "Who are you?" "Are you cops?" I said. "I'm Detective Asper, and this is Detective Logan," said the black woman. They showed their badges. I made an uncertain face. "Is Linda here? Did he hurt her?" "No, he didn't hurt her physically, but Mr. Stevens was attacked." "Can we come in?" "Sure. Where's Linda? Did you bring her with you?" asked the white detective. "No, sir. She's at the hospital being treated by the paramedic." I paused for a second, just looking at them, and they just looked at me. "Have a seat," I said, pointing to the couch. But they sat separately in 2 straight-back chairs. So, I used the couch. "I think you should explain what happened," I said. "What have you been doing since your wife left the club with Stevens?" It was Logan again. "Just tell me what happened." "All right," Asper responded, "but you'll have to answer the question. I went to our hotel room, grabbed my things, checked out, and came here. I got drunk and fell asleep on this couch. They woke me up. Is anyone else here? No. The kids stayed with the babysitter overnight. Did you make any calls or text anyone you know to prove you were here? No, but I never left. Asper looked around. I see you have a security system. What does it cover? It covers all the doors. I think I can prove I was here. We went upstairs. They followed me to the office upstairs, and I sat at the computer desk. I showed them the system, and they saw me load data from 6 p.m. until they arrived. I gave them a quick look. The system was directed at the 3 doors, the front, the side, and the sliding door that leads to the pool. The side where I went down had no door. It led to the woods, and had 2 large windows, neither of which opened, so there was no surveillance there. We'll need to take this computer, said Logan. Why? I saw how you downloaded security data. You might have known you were busted before we arrived. Fine, but I can't give it to you for more than a day. It's a work computer, and I need it. I have a backup, but it won't last long. Look at me. I'll download some stuff to this external disk, including what I just gave you. And I did. They wanted to take a look, but I let them. However, I insisted that they stay together and with me. They took some photos and then left. It was 10 a.m. when I called Linda's parents. Their names are Jan and Stephanie. They live next door, but at that moment they were at their house by the lake. I told them what happened and that the police said Linda was in shock at the hospital. Jan was just stunned by what Linda did. Stephanie might not have been as surprised. Are you going to see her? Stephanie asked. No, I'm sorry. That's why I called you. I really don't want anything to do with her after what she did. It's bad that they attacked the guy, but it's not my fault. Apparently, she's done this kind of thing many times. When she gets out of the hospital, she needs to stay away from me in the house. We can arrange for her things to be picked up, Jan said. Why don't you move out instead? She can't stay. The kids live there their whole lives. This is my house. This isn't community property acquired during the marriage. Jan was a lawyer, and I assumed he would try to sort something out. You just have to wait, he said. That's pretty cruel, Tom. Not as cruel as what she did to me. The conversation ended there. Then I called my parents in Florida. I told them the best I could what had happened. They were also shocked by Linda's behavior. My dad turned on the TV and told me there was news about Stevens. They said he was attacked and killed at his house. This wasn't news to me. The phone rang. A landline. Tom, where is Linda? We heard they killed Mark. She's in shock at the hospital, as the police told me. Did you see her? Which hospital? I don't know. I don't plan on hanging out with her. Don't be like that. She needs your support. She'll never get support from me. I don't care if her big night was ruined. If it was ruined, I'll visit her. You're a pig. You killed Mark. No, but I don't regret it, I said, and hung up. I showered again and got dressed to go pick up the kids from the babysitter. It was around 8 when I got there. I found out they knew nothing about the events of the night. We went home. When they asked where Linda was, I said, I don't think she'll be here today. She has something to do. We'll spend the day without her. Dressed for soccer, I took them to the sports complex where they had games at noon. By 1 p.m., I was pretty relaxed watching them play. Michelle, the youngest, was pretty good. Laura, not so much, but she tried hard, and it was good exercise for them. After the games were over, we bought ice cream and went back home. There were several messages on my cell phone. I had the sound on mute while I was with the girls. One was from Linda's parents, telling me she was at St. Hugh's and not responding. Another was from a doctor at the hospital, asking me to call. One more was from Judy, telling me Linda was at the police station and wasn't talking to anyone. She said I should calm down and take the girls to her. I told the girls their mom was at the hospital and wasn't injured but emotionally traumatized by something that happened the night before. They wanted to know what happened. I said, your mom went to a famous football player's house last night to have sex. There's no other way to say it. I thought you'd figure it out while I was there. Someone attacked the football player, but apparently not her. But she must have found him or something because she's in the hospital in shock. They weren't sure if they wanted to go see her, but I told them to get dressed and we went. I called the doctor again, Laura Thompson. She said Linda was traumatized and currently in a catatonic state. I asked about bringing the girls. She hesitated. The doctor asked, "Are you going to visit her?" "I really don't want to see her at all. I suppose you know why, but I can bring the girls if you think it might help." "Do you know what happened? Do you mean the sex between Linda and the football player?" "Yes," I said. "They're ready to go. If you think it might help Linda, it's fine. Meet me in room 311 in 30 minutes. We went there. Dr. Thompson was in her 40s and was a psychiatrist. We talked for a while, and then she turned to the girls. She said their mother was in complete shock and seemed unaware of her surroundings. She said meeting the girls might help. They wanted to see her, so they did. I took them to the door and looked inside. Linda was sitting on the bed, watching cartoons on TV. The girls hesitantly approached. "Mom?" Laura, the oldest, said, touching her hand. Sally followed, but there was no reaction. Sally started crying. I approached her, hugged her, and looked at Linda. Nothing. I took Laura's hand and led them out. "Well, we tried," I said. "Will she wake up?" Laura asked. "Of course, someday," I said. "Maybe they can visit her again soon. Maybe when she regains her senses." "What if she doesn't wake up?" Sally whispered. I reassured her. "She'll wake up." "I know. Maybe not soon." "She will," said the doctor. "Girls, I'll definitely let you know when she regains consciousness." After this, we left the hospital. Both girls were crying in the car. Maybe I shouldn't have taken them. I just wanted to see Linda and see if her presence would help. Despite my harsh reaction to her betrayal, I didn't wish this on her. I felt bad about it, even though she deserved to suffer. Not like this. I felt tears running down my cheeks. When we got home, I made scrambled eggs and toast. I deliberately involved them in the kitchen, pretending I needed help. It seemed like the chance to cheer me up encouraged them. Then I put on a movie for them, went into my office, and called my friend to see if he could get any information about what happened at the Stevens house after I left. He was a public defender and good at his job. He said he couldn't get police reports but had an idea. Ambulance mileage reports were publicly available. I asked him to check if he could. We hung up. I went into the living room and absent-mindedly watched a movie, wondering what might happen. An hour later, my lawyer friend called again. He said he emailed me the information about the ambulance call. I told him about the police visit. He said if the security system showed no one entered or left, I probably wouldn't have anything to worry about. But he also said the police could get a search warrant or want to talk to me again. He recommended a lawyer if necessary. I didn't think I needed a lawyer, but I called the woman anyway. After seeing the emergency report, the police found Linda with Stevens. Her head was in his lap, covered in blood. She was only wearing a thin robe. She kept repeating, "No, no, no," over and over. The police picked her up and put her in the ambulance. She was unresponsive when the ambulance arrived, and throughout the ride to the hospital, an officer was with her, asking if she had seen who did it, but got no response. It sickened me and made me wonder if she would ever recover. I looked up PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. I had already looked it up for myself before. I had studied the catatonic state induced by shock. It seemed that people generally recovered from a catatonic state, but they could suffer from PTSD for years. Lawyer Joan Drack made me an appointment for Monday morning at 9:30. She gave me her mobile number in case the police arrived early. This didn't happen. The girls and I spent Sunday having fun, while I tried to convince them Linda would eventually return, but would still need our help. For me, I wondered what her reaction would be towards me when I had her. I was pretty sure she didn't see anything, and if she did see something, it would just be a man all in black with a mask. But maybe she would assume it was me. I didn't know. I didn't think she had any experience with me that would lead her to seriously believe I was capable of doing what I really did. On Monday, I took the girls to school and followed the local news coverage about Stevens' murder. They didn't mention Linda's name, but they said Stevens was with a married woman when he was attacked outside his house. A neighbor called the police in response to Linda's screams. So far, no one other than the authorities had linked Linda or me to the murder, but I assumed that would change over time. Joan Drack was a stylish blonde in her mid-40s. She was also quite nervous, just as my friend had said. I told her the story from the beginning and gave her a copy of the ambulance report. She was in shock. She stared at me. I stared back and simply told her that the police had a copy of the security camera footage and that it hadn't been tampered with. It showed absolutely no one entering or leaving between the time I got home and when the police arrived. I asked her to return my computer because I needed it for work. I gave her the advance and listened as she called the police station and asked for Detective Asper. "Hello, Detective. This is Joan Drake. I'm calling about Tom Jew. I want to know if I can return his work computer. I don't think you've had enough time to see if there were any changes." "You know I haven't." "All right, I'll send someone tomorrow morning to pick it up." "I won't send anyone from the office. He won't come." I hung up the phone. "Murmur well, he'll be there at 9. When she hung up, I told her I wouldn't talk to the police, and that I would keep my phone with me to record conversations. I left that afternoon. The girls came home from school and immediately asked about Linda. I had already called the doctor, and there had been no significant changes. They started doing their homework. Later, we ordered pizza for delivery. I told them that if their mother didn't come back soon, they would have to learn to cook. This caused laughter. I'm actually a good cook. I just didn't do it at home. When her sister came up, Laura asked me if I could forgive Mom for having an affair with another man. "Maybe," I said. "I really don't know right now. I just want her to feel better." Then the phone rang. It was Jim Byman from the newspaper. "Mr. Jowd, this is Jim Byman from the Tribune." "Hello. We have information that it was your wife, Linda, who was with Mark Stevens when he was killed. Can you confirm that? I wouldn't want this to be made public. My 2 children are at school and could get into trouble if this comes out." "So, you confirm it? How do you feel about the death of your wife's lover?" "I understand what you're referring to. If anything you publish harms my family, I will take action against you and your newspaper. It will come out, Mr. Jowd. There's nothing you can do about it. Look, I see the ATV truck. I think you're right. Damn. Sorry. I have to go." There was a knock at the door. I looked at the camera and saw a young woman with a microphone. I spoke through the intercom. "Go away, you're trespassing, and I'll call the police. Is your wife there, Mr. Jowd?" I called the local department and told them I needed help getting the press off my porch. They responded by removing what had already been a group of 6 people, but they didn't move far. Now there were 4 trucks there. I called the doctor and told him to make sure Linda was safe before the press arrived. I talked to the girls and told them I thought they could stay somewhere else with me and study at home, but they said they wanted to keep going to school. Even if they had to live elsewhere, I told them I would think about it. I called my lawyer, Joan, and asked for advice. She said she would make a statement to the press if I wanted, to see if that calmed the attention. We arranged it. The statement was made through her office and stated that my family would like to be allowed to continue with their normal daily life. It said I don't comment on rumors about my wife and won't do so in the future. It stated that the continued presence of the media outside the house would result in legal action and harm the family, and that we would appreciate the trucks leaving. Meanwhile, Detective Asper and her boss announced a press conference at 7 p.m. The police said Mark Stevens had been attacked outside his house and killed with a sharp object. They said that although there was a woman in the house at the time, there were no indications that she witnessed the attack. They said the investigation was ongoing. The first question was whether the woman was married and whether her husband was a suspect. Detective Asper said, "Since everyone knows her name, I assume you know she's married. But we have conducted an exhaustive investigation into him and found no indication he was involved in the attack. In fact, it seems he spent the whole night at his house, some distance from the incident." The reporter asked about other married women. "We've thoroughly investigated allegations that Mr. Stevens regularly seduced married women and found that there was some truth to this. In fact, it seems he took several married women in the presence of their husbands." Chief Johnson interrupted the meeting. "That's all for now. If we have anything else before our briefing on Wednesday, we'll let you know." And the police left amid shouting. I made arrangements with the girls' school to have their homework delivered here, or sent by computer in the coming days. I called Linda's parents and told them to be alert to the press, but no one had shown up yet. They also disappeared from our street. On Tuesday, the doctor called and said Linda was starting to respond and that the police were with her. I told her parents and gathered the girls to take them to the hospital. When we got there, the police were already leaving. Detective Asper said she would like to speak with me after my meeting with Linda. I agreed. Linda still seemed stunned. She greeted the girls with a smile and hugged them, but didn't look at me. The girls told her about the TV trucks in school, but then Linda seemed groggy. The doctor said we should let her sleep. Her parents were outside talking with the girls when I went to see Detective Asper. It seems like she's improving, said Asper. Maybe. I really don't know. Will you take her home until she improves? Yes. Then I'm sure we'll part ways. I think you should give her a break. What other punishment could she get besides what's already happened? It's not about punishment. It's about respect and trust. I'll never trust her, and I'll never respect her, and maybe she'll never respect me either. Detective Asper smiled. Maybe she's afraid of you. Maybe she doesn't trust you either. You're just trying to trap me. You know perfectly well that I had nothing to do with the attack on Stevens. I know you have a military background. I know you had an impressive reputation in the service. So maybe an average guy couldn't do it, but maybe you could. I didn't do it. Period. You know, we have security video from Stevens' house. It's not my problem. I wasn't there. Goodbye. It sounded like a threat. In the following days, Linda gradually regained some semblance of normal behavior. I left the girls every day, but I didn't spend much time in the room with them. The fourth day was Linda's scheduled discharge. She asked to speak to me alone, and I sent the girls away. Forgive me for what I did, putting you in such an uncomfortable position. I don't think apologies will help. Linda, I can't tell you how humiliating it was for me. Now it's on the national news. I'd like to go home when they discharge me this afternoon. She sat on the bed and moved closer to the chair. Can I go home? You know the media are there, and will follow you from here. I don't want the girls' lives to be ruined any further. Maybe I can sneak out now. I looked at her for a long time. Sure, you're good at escaping. She didn't look up. I said I'll contact security. I can't say I want to be near you, but maybe I don't have much of a choice right now. I didn't want you to get hurt. I thought you loved me and you could get through this. Or in fact, I didn't think about it at all. You had sex. We weren't naked in bed when the commotion started. I looked at her closely and realized she was lying. You see, I can't say I believe you, and I'll never believe anything you tell me. In fact, I'll never trust you again, but we'll see how things go. Okay, I love you. I just turned around and left. I went to the hospital security office and arranged for a car to pick up Linda behind the building and take her home. It was scheduled for 4 p.m. Everything went smoothly, and she got home around 4:45. The kids and her parents were there with me. I made a bed for myself in my office. Linda will sleep in our room. The rest of the day was very uncomfortable, to say the least. Her parents didn't quite understand how to behave in this situation. Linda, her mom, and the kids were playing Monopoly in the living room. Her father wanted to talk, so we went to the backyard. Jan asked, "What are you going to do, Tom?" I really don't know, but there's a good chance we're done. You should try to forgive her. You've loved each other for so long, and you have a wonderful family. I know, but I wonder if we've really loved each other for so long. If she loved me, she would never have done this. She said you didn't have sex, how should I know? She was there with him for quite a while. You don't care, do you? She would have. We all know that. It could have made a difference if she hadn't used protection. She could have a disease or be pregnant. Damn, I didn't like this thought. She can stay here for now, but soon you'll want to find another solution. We went back to the house, and we all had pizza together. Her parents went home. As far as I understand, they didn't discuss Mark with her. While we were putting the girls to bed, Laura asked Linda, "Why did you go have sex with Mark?" "I'm so sorry. I was wrong, and I made a mistake, but I don't understand. He's just a football player. I saw him. He's not our dad." No, Dad. I'll talk to you about that later when I find out more." The girls went to bed, and Linda went down to the kitchen. I followed her about 10 minutes later. In the meantime, I called my friend, a public defender, and asked about the autopsy report. He said it was also a public document, and I asked him to get it if he could. Linda had a Pepsi. Alcohol wasn't recommended for her because it could cause a relapse. She asked, "Are you sleeping in our room?" "No, in the office." "Well, you're welcome anytime. We'll just have to wait right now. I don't see a way forward for us." But all of this happened only this week. I can be patient. Suddenly, I didn't realize it. I went up to my office and went to bed. I didn't sleep very well, and got up at 5 a.m. I made coffee. A friend of mine sent me a copy of Stephen's autopsy. I read it carefully, paying particular attention to the trauma analysis, where traces of ejaculation and female secretions were found. The samples were sent for lab analysis. It seemed that Linda lied when she said they didn't have sex. I never believed her. Given the timing, she had been there about 2 hours before the murder. When she came down, I took the girls to school, almost as usual. However, they were a little depressed. I spent a lot of time considering my options. If it weren't for Linda's illness, I would have never let her come back home. But there were benefits to allowing it, including making things a little easier for the girls if things calmed down. As soon as I entered the house, another TV van stopped outside. A young woman got out and shouted, asking if Linda was home and if I had forgiven her. I smiled, gestured, and warned her not to enter our territory. I went inside. Linda had baked some cookies and offered me one, which I accepted. There was an ATV van outside. They don't know you're here. Maybe they shouldn't know. What do they want? They already posted my name and what I did at their house. They can cause more harm. I'm sure they can make something up. I looked at her, wondering what to do with her, or with us. I'd like you to write down exactly what happened last Friday, from the moment that idiot approached us until you ended up in the hospital. It doesn't have to be now, but it should happen soon. If it's too traumatic, skip that part and write it later. I'll try to do the same. Linda went to her room and sat at her desk, writing on her computer. I left her alone and went to my office, where I started studying the autopsy materials. Linda's sexual fluids were identified. So, she probably lied about the sex. I waited to see what she would write about what happened, but I just couldn't imagine continuing my life with her as my wife. The next day, after dinner, Linda came into my office at home. I finished writing. She handed me the printout. I read what she wrote. Tom, forgive me for my weakness. When Mark asked me to dance, I was so excited. He was charming, and he had such a reputation. When we danced, I really didn't think of anything else. When the slow dance started, I was simply at his mercy. He pulled me towards him. Honestly, I would have given myself to him at that moment. I don't know why I was so attracted to him, but I was. He told me to go out the side door and that we would go to his house. He said I would have the best sexual experience of my life. I believed him. When the dance ended, I went back to our table, and you weren't there. I agreed to go to the bathroom with June. When I came back, I saw you were very angry, but I thought you would eventually get over it. I wanted Mark so much. So, I went out the side door, and we went to his house. He kissed me. As soon as we entered, he picked me up and carried me upstairs to his bed. We had very passionate sex. While we were finishing, the car alarm went off. He put on his robe and went out. He told me to wait there. I looked out the window but didn't see anything. On the porch roof, I saw someone running, dressed in black. The man jumped over the fence. I found a robe and went down to the front door. He was lying at the entrance. I ran toward him. His head was crushed. I was fine, in some sort of trance, just stunned and in shock. I felt guilty, like it was my fault. The police arrived, and I remember being in the hospital. I am so sorry for all of this. I love you, and I don't know why I did what I did. I looked at her. Tears were falling down her face. Tom, you are the man I saw. I was here all night, drinking, regretting the end of my marriage and the changes that had to happen in my family. There was hatred in me. But of course, the police told you I was here. They have surveillance footage. That's what they said when I asked. No. But I can tell you that I think Stevens got what he deserved. No, Tom, he didn't deserve this. He was nice and changed your world completely, didn't he? Tom, no. Why don't you want me to know that I'll never love you the same way again? Maybe I can't love you at all. The man I thought I married would never do what you did. Was it worth it? Was the sex worth it for what you lost? What did he lose? You know, the sex was amazing, but it wasn't worth what happened. If we had that night and I went home the next day, well, maybe. But he's dead, and I'm ruined forever. Yes, you killed him. She turned and ran out of the room. "No, you killed him," I muttered. I wouldn't try to convince her of my innocence, nor would I try to fix things in any way. Of course, I would never admit what happened. I assumed that if I did, she would immediately tell the police that she was a woman who could not be trusted at all. She simply told me that if Stevens hadn't been murdered, her night would have been worth it. The consequences. Maybe not in those terms, but still. A few weeks later, I filed for divorce. I requested custody of the children so they could stay in the house. Linda still had work, so I didn't ask for alimony, child support, or visitation rights. Linda recovered enough that I insisted she move out. She went to visit her parents. I handed her the papers there. Shortly after, her father called. He wanted me to take the papers, and Linda was desperate. I told him she deserved to be desperate and should get a lawyer. He was very angry, but I didn't know if he was angry with me or with her. He asked about visitation, and I told him she could come any night and stay until the kids went to bed. Linda showed up the next day. I made macaroni and cheese, and we ate with the girls. We played some board games with them and put them to bed. Afterward, Linda wanted to talk, but I wasn't in the mood to talk. "We need to resolve this, Tom. It won't do the girls any good if we're separated. They'll have to adapt. You can find a place where they can come see you. The sooner we resolve the divorce, the sooner you can set up a visitation schedule. Please, I don't want a divorce. I made a mistake." "Okay, it's a big mistake, but I love you. There's no way we're staying married after you had sex behind my back. Forget it and move on." Linda started crying. She wasn't sobbing. She just cried silently. I really felt sorry for her, but not enough to change my mind. We were done. The divorce went through. We worked out a shared custody agreement, and Linda had an apartment with a large second bedroom for the girls. We both established a distant but friendly relationship, focusing on the kids. About 4 months later, I started dating women from our circle and from work. They knew I was single, and it seemed to attract their attention. When Linda had the girls, I brought several women home for the night. However, none of them lasted long, but the sex was generally good, sometimes great. I stayed away from married women, although some of them seemed eager to sleep with me. But after my experience, I decided it was immoral. Linda was good with the kids, but not so great on her own. She took antidepressants and slept a lot, but she managed to go to work and complete her tasks. Her parents and the girls told me she wasn't dating anyone. After 10 years, Sally went to college. Laura was about to start her first year. They had both gotten used to the shared custody arrangement and seemed to be fine. Both of them dated boys in high school, and I think Laura did in college as well. I was in a long-term relationship with a young woman named Kui, whom I met one night at a bar. Like me, she was divorced, had 2 kids at home, and her ex-husband had moved to the West Coast. She was 35 when we met, and her kids were in school. When they went off to college, she moved into my house. I used to love her. She was fun, intelligent, and the sex was great. She may not have been as beautiful as Linda, but she was pretty. And suddenly, the guys started paying attention to us when we went out. Shortly after we met, I told her all about the commotion surrounding Mark Stevens' death. Of course, I never told her how he died. The fuss eventually calmed down, and no one was ever arrested or charged. One Saturday, Detective Logan showed up at my house, and I invited him in. I was home alone. He said, "I'm glad things have gone well for you, good pension, but why are you here?" I looked at him and replied, "I just want you to know that I was convinced you killed that idiot, and well, he deserved it. Although, maybe not your wife. I didn't do it, but he certainly deserved it." I congratulate whoever did. "Why do you say Linda didn't deserve it?" he asked. "Well, it was just one night, and she only did what many other married women do when that idiot bothers them. You know, if they had met somewhere and committed adultery in private, maybe we could have gotten over it. But he was too brazen and ostentatious." "I understand," I said, changing the subject. "How is your partner? She's a captain now, a new tough girl, very sharp." We shook hands, and he left. As for Linda, she eventually recovered somewhat. We traveled together when I took Celie to school. One day, I asked how Linda was doing. She said, "I'm fine. I have a boyfriend, kind of like a friends with benefits situation." Are you with Kui? I asked. Well, generally, yes. And when our kids leave, maybe we'll live together, Linda whispered. I wish none of this had happened. Now we'd be empty nesters and could really have fun. I'm still so sorry, I said, and she said it too. We both cried. Afterward, she moved into her friend's apartment, but I don't think she ever fully recovered from that night, just like I didn't. I'll probably never regret what I did. I probably saved many marriages. One of my most effective altruistic acts. Are you still here? Interesting. In that case, I suggest you subscribe to this channel, leave a like, and comment on where in the world you listened to this story from. Let's see where everyone is from.